This video should be understood in tandem with the previous video in which I take you through the various themes that we've covered both last semester and this semester. You've encountered this diagram a number of times, and it's a digital representation of Benjamin Bloom's taxonomy of learning. Bloom's theory on learning has been very influential across the fields of education, and if you talk to an educationalist, they will no doubt be familiar with the theory. The whole purpose, as I explained at the beginning of the module, for Level 5 courses, in my view, is to move students away from basic skills that they might have developed in previous study and at Level 4 study towards more independent study, the type of study that's expected in Level 6. Hence, the Level 5 assignments might be seen as bridging exercises, taking students away from highly dependent learning on learners towards more independent learners, because this independent learning style is what is expected of you at Level 6, especially around areas of the dissertation. Indeed, one would expect a graduate who has graduated from university to be able to demonstrate highly developed independent learning skills. So without further ado, the whole exercise of creating the timeline, as you can see, is a more complex task, and it's perhaps causing some of you frustration, because you will be asking the question, what does he want? What does he want to see on the timeline? Which dates are meant to be on the timeline? What am I supposed to put on the timeline? To some extent, you have some flexibility in this. If you can reason rationally why you have included a certain event on your particular timeline, you will receive marks for that. That event, date, or significant report, or whatever it is that you're referring to, can be something that I've covered in class, or something that you have sought out in independent study. Although you have plenty of material to go on, as I've provided you with Clarke's packs containing 4, 5, 6 and 7 sources that relate to particular critical themes that we've covered. Now, I haven't gone through the development of education along these lines. In 1955 this happened. In the following year this happened. In 1957 a further report came out where this happened. In 1960 another report came out which influenced the passing of this act in 1962. I haven't taken you through things chronologically, partly because I think both you and I would lose the will to live if I did that, but what I'm aiming to do is give you some context, provide you with key ideas by those theorists that have had opinion on developments in education. You then need to take these contextual theories and apply them to a theme of your choice. So the theme you might suggest, for example, might be citizenship in schools, and you would discuss the significant events of citizenship over the last 200 years in education. Or you might discuss the emergence of student voice with reference to how student voice maybe didn't exist 50 years ago, and what school was like regarding students who wanted to influence how education progressed. You could, of course, make reference to more collaborative approaches to learning, such as Summerhill in that document, Summerhill School. So, this is a complex task, as I've already said, because there is, as I said in one of the first lectures last semester, the time frame of 200 years is vast, which means necessarily you will have to sort and sift the events that you choose to feature on the timeline. You simply don't have the time or scope to include every single significant event regarding your theme within education onto the timeline, which means that you have to think about things, evaluate them, analyse them, and consider if they really ought to really ought to feature on the timeline or not. Just because you've found something and come across it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it should feature on there. And that's a process of analysing and evaluating the significance of that event. In doing so, you will construct and create your own individual timeline. There may be things on your timeline that fellow students have not featured on their timeline. Now, the simplistic response to this will be that one of you has done the timeline wrong, and that's not the case. If you can rationally argue with reference to theory and sources why you have included something on your timeline, you will receive marks for it. This supports my approach to the understanding of history in that narratives about history are generative. They are generated. Accounts of history, if you like, are created rather than mere reporting of the facts. For example, if you read a textbook on the Second World War in Japanese schools, it provides a very different account to how Europeans describe the Second World War or Americans. And it's perhaps summed up in the adage that I've provided you with at the beginning of last semester, which was, "Until the lions have their own historians, tales of the hunt will always glorify the hunter." Therefore, I'm asking you to create an answer. There isn't an answer, there are many answers. Nevertheless, it's a difficult task, and I appreciate that. But then again, it should be, as you're coming to the end of level 5 in your degree programme and moving up to this position into level 6, where more is expected as you as an independent learner, and then finally as a graduate. Okay, without further ado, moving on to the timeline software, which actually I'll put together in another video so you don't have to sit through all the stuff that I've just gone over. Okay, look out for the next video, video 3 in this series. Thanks.